Recently, a friend of mine pulled this MacBook Pro out of an e-waste bin at the college he works at. Does it work, and was there a reason it was thrown out? Let's take a look.
First impressions are promising. I've definitely seen far more beat up MacBooks. The screen hinge is also very tight, a good sign that it hadn't been abused. The keyboard also not super dirty, so I'd be guessing this was a teacher's device originally, as students tend to use laptops as tables while eating. Another good sign is the battery showing some level of charge, meaning this Mac must have some functionality. So what better way to find out if it works than to simply plug it in? I found a compatible MagSafe charger I had lying around, and it chimed as well as lit up the display. And the folder icon means either this Mac has no operating system or hard disk. Now is a good time to open it up and see if there's anything else obviously wrong internally. 10 Phillips head screws later reveals a lack of hard disk and something far worse: corrosion, and just how much is lurking deeper inside the Mac.
And before we take things further, here's a word from today's sponsor, Red Magic, and their newly released 8 Pro gaming smartphone.
Inside the shipping box, we've got the phone and a small figurine. This is Mora, Red Magic's mascot that's also integrated into the phone itself, revealing some nice artwork, some fine attention to detail. And inside is the premium feeling glass slab of a smartphone, the 8 Pro. Also included is a case and a 65-watt GAN fast charger that'll top off the large 6000 mAh battery in no time at all.
If you're after a crazy powerful smartphone with excellent battery life and shoulder trigger buttons, the Red Magic 8 Pro is definitely for you.
And those 520Hz dual shoulder triggers make for very responsive inputs that you can map to virtually any games you'd like. And to keep the super powerful Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 mobile chipset cool during intense gaming sessions, the ICE 11 cooling system utilizes a 20,000 RPM turbo fan, which is lit up with mesmerizing LED lighting in the 520GB Void version. That also packs in 16GB of blazing fast LPDDR5X RAM, a true flagship in every sense, from performance to outstanding build quality.
It doesn't just excel at gaming. The 120Hz AMOLED display is excellent for content consumption, and the underscreen camera means there's no obstruction to the display whatsoever.
And the addition of a headphone jack and stereo speakers make for a great listening experience and an all-round multimedia Swiss Army knife of a phone.
So if you're a smartphone gamer or someone who's after a really solid phone, definitely consider the Red Magic 8 Pro. Links are in the description if you want to buy one or learn more.
I popped in a random 500GB SSD I pulled from another computer. This must have been from another Mac, as it attempted to boot, but ultimately just went into recovery mode, showing that it was at least detected. I wiped the SSD and plugged in my macOS Catalina and Still USB. A short time later, it was up and running, with no signs of issues surprisingly. Before completely taking it apart to inspect potential liquid damage, I thought a good cleaning was in order, starting off with some eucalyptus oil. The sticker on the lid should come off with a bit of cheap sticker remover, and after letting it sit for a few minutes, it scraped off with ease. To remove any gunk buildup around the keycaps, I put some isopropyl alcohol on a toothbrush and began scrubbing. Pro tip, don't use isopropyl alcohol to clean your teeth. You may become high off the fumes or potentially not live much longer. The display surface, underneath years of smudges and learning, was actually close to perfect, and once again I removed the back casing. First disconnecting the battery, which has just over 100 cycles of use, and there are 2 tri-wing screws holding it in place, and then it simply lifts up and out. An easy replacement, unlike in newer Apple MacBooks, and by default this came with 4GB of RAM, and the previous owner had upgraded it to a far more usable 8GB. Which is what I and many other Mac enthusiasts like about the 2012 MacBook Pros. They were still very upgradable and user-friendly when it came to repairs. All of the Retina models released after this had soldered on RAM, no optical drive, and proprietary flash memory, along with the glued-in-place batteries. And there isn't much dust here, a sign that it may have stayed in the pristine offices of the private school it came from. But what lurks on the other side of the logic board? It'll be interesting to see just how far the liquid spill has traveled. When removing the board, be sure to dislodge the microphone from the casing, and this will save you the effort of accidentally ripping it out later. But don't worry, I've made that mistake before. And after being very sure that all the screws had been removed along with every connector, I gently lifted the board out. It's dusty, which is to be expected, but it's also corrosion and liquid damage free. So now my attention can be focused on the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth module in the corner. Underneath, it appears pretty clean, but just to be sure, I also removed the optical drive, which was also corrosion free. The small amount of white rust left on the antennas was wiped off with some isopropyl alcohol, and for the hard-to-reach corrosion, I used a toothbrush. Colgate, please sponsor me. The module itself didn't look all that good, so it was also brushed. and under the shielding there was a bit more damage, which was also able to be scrubbed off fairly easily with no permanent corrosion as far as I could see. Not too bad at all, I'd say. It looks as if what I assume was water had only gotten into the corner and thankfully not caused any permanent damage. If it was salt or mineral rich water, you can guarantee a whole lot more rust would have formed. These MacBooks are notorious for running pretty hot, with the processors close to 100 degrees being common, and as a result the thermal paste after many years of use had become dry and brittle, and if your laptop is running unusually hot, it might be time to redo the paste or at the very least make sure the fans aren't clogged with dust and hair. This one has next to no dust buildup, which for me is a little disappointing. It wouldn't take much for the thin air exhaust to get clogged up, and overall this is a Mac that appears to have been well looked after and might not have been used after the liquid spill. My guess would be the school's IT department had it sitting around for a few years and finally threw it out, not realizing or perhaps caring that the damage wasn't all that great. You've got to remember that this Mac is nearly 11 years old. They aren't worth that much anymore, and I often see the 2012 models online for under 200 Australian dollars. And relievingly, this one is still functional after the surgery, and functional it most definitely is. With good battery life and an excellent keyboard, this would still be useful for a student or someone working on the go. Light gaming is also possible, but don't expect too much out of the integrated Intel HD 4000 chipset. Minecraft runs pretty well. Feel free to join my server if you'd like to. And if you like old school RuneScape, even an old dual-core i5 Mac like this will be totally fine. It's surprising how much I've been able to level up this account just by playing it every time I test a new computer. Super Tux Kart is another game that's totally playable on here, and the best part is, it's free. So if you like Mario Kart but don't want to spend money, this is the game for you. And last of all, some 1080p YouTube playback was very smooth. For content consumption, this display panel still looks pretty good. The 2012 non-Retina MacBooks have really stood the test of time. Robust, reliable, and importantly, upgradable. While chunkier than the newer MacBooks, it's surprisingly light. But if I was given the choice between an 11-inch Air or this 13-inch Pro, it would be a hard decision. The smaller screen and thinner chassis means less to carry around. And since neither would be very useful for strenuous tasks, the portability of the Air wins me over. But if you find a solid deal on a 2012 13-inch MacBook, I don't think you'd be disappointed.
It's honestly really crazy to see just what people will throw out these days, and MacBooks are definitely one of those things. And another thing that was in that e-waste bin is an old Mac Pro that looks pretty dirty. Perhaps I'll cover that in a later video. Anyway, it's really hot and it's summer here in Australia, and I am looking forward to a glass of water. You have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.